How you doing? I'm Darren with Kickin BBQ. If this is your first time to the channel, then welcome. If you've been here before, then welcome back. Today we are talking buttery prime rib. That's right, it's almost Christmas time. A lot of people are gonna be cooking up prime ribs. So today I'm gonna show you my recipe for one of my favorite ways to do it. It's gonna be beefy, it's gonna be buttery, it's gonna be delicious. Let's jump in and get this prepped up right now. All right, so all we're gonna do here is just get some kosher salt all over this thing, and you can be pretty liberal with it because it is a big chunk of meat and can take quite a bit of kosher salt. It may look like a lot, but these are some big granules, so it's not near as much as you think it is. So we're just gonna hit all over with this thing with kosher salt, and that's all we're gonna be doing with it tonight. We're gonna be dry brining this overnight. I've experimented a lot with prime rib, and I find this to give it the best taste. Kind of melts in and just seasons everything throughout. Obviously, you're not gonna be getting to the center of this because it is a big cut, but it does a nice job of penetrating deep enough where you do get the flavor of the kosher salt. All right, so there we go. It is all seasoned up. Now we're just gonna take some butcher twine, and this is about a 5-pound roast, so I only need 2 pieces. I'm just gonna lay them across right here. All right, so now that we have this on here, just gonna loop it, and loop it a 3rd time. Pull it tight. That's gonna help keep everything nice and tight, looping it 3 times like that. Just pull that, cut the ends, and do the same thing with this side. 1, 2, 3, pull tight. If you want to get fancy and do a butcher's knot, you sure can, but this works well for me. Now at this point, this is just going into the refrigerator overnight to dry brine. We'll pick back up tomorrow. We'll show you where the buttery aspect comes into play on this, but it's gonna be absolutely amazing, so we'll see you tomorrow. All right, so it is the next morning. You can see our prime rib. The fat has kind of changed colors on there. You can see where that salt was on there. It's pretty much all soaked in there. It's been a little over 12 hours. If you wanted to let this go 24 hours, you sure could. If you wanted to let it dry brine for 2 days, you sure could. At this point, I'm just going to take a little bit of avocado oil, and I'm just gonna hit this roast like so. And I'm just gonna rub that all over this roast because we're gonna add some granulated garlic and some coarse ground black pepper to this roast right now. So I'm gonna get this completely rubbed down. All right, so next I'm gonna come in with some coarse ground black pepper, and I'm just gonna evenly hit this entire roast. All right, and there we go. There's our black pepper. The next thing I'm coming in with is the granulated garlic. I love granulated garlic. It's way better than garlic powder. Bigger granules just makes for much better flavor. And I love garlic, so we're going pretty heavy with it. All right, so there we go. There is all of our seasoning we're doing on this. And I promised you yesterday this is going to be a buttery beefy prime rib. So I'm gonna show you the next step in that process. All right, so I have this bowl here and I have 2 sticks of unsalted butter. You don't have to use a fancy butter for this. It's gonna melt off, but I'm gonna show you what you can do with the drippings after it melts off. That is gonna add a really nice flavor. You could do a couple different things with it. You can strain it and use it as a drizzle sauce, or you can make a jus with it. It is completely up to you. I prefer the drizzle sauce just because a nice buttery, beefy prime rib is just so good. So here I have 4 cloves of chopped garlic and 2 sprigs of rosemary and 2 sprigs of thyme. You want to make sure that you're chopping these very, very fine. So I'm just gonna add all of this to the butter. This is almost like a compound butter. And sometimes you just gotta get your hands dirty. My butter didn't sit out to room temperature quite long enough. So you want to get this so it's an easy consistency to work with. All right, now we're going to take our rib roast here. We're just going to start grabbing this butter and just spreading it all over this rib roast. You want to do your best to cover as much surface area as you possibly can. I'll flip it over on the side here. And we're not going to do the bottom of this. We're just going to do the tops and the sides. All right, so there is our butter roast right there. looking really, really good. And yes, this is going to melt off. That is the point. It's gonna kind of baste it as it melts. It's gonna help darken up the exterior of this, which is gonna be great for when you go to sear it off. All right, so now that we have our roast all seasoned up, we are going to get our probes in here so we can monitor our temps, because we are definitely cooking this to temp. You cannot cook a prime rib roast to time. I don't care what anyone says. And what you want to do is kind of find the middle of the roast and mark it. So we're sitting at right about there. So we're just going to go in dead center and go bam, right like so. And then I actually learned this trick from my buddy Ricer over at Dead Broke Barbecue. He uses 2 probes. We got one going in the top, then we got one going in the side. So I'm just gonna measure that out, and that is almost all the way in. So we're gonna go right there. And now we are going to have 2 complete readings, just so you can see that there. We have another probe right there. Now I'm going to grab my fireboard here, get that fired up. And I know now that the first probe is going to be the side probe, and the second probe is going to be the top probe. You can see we're reading at 35.9 and 35.5. So I have had this roast sitting out for about an hour now on the counter, just to take the chill off of it. And we do that because we want to kind of let it start coming up to temperature a little bit, so you're not taking an ice cold piece of meat and shocking it on a warm cooker. This isn't like a brisket. This is going to be a little bit quicker of a cook. I'm guessing probably 3.5 hours on this. We're going to be running on the Trager Ironwood 885 today at 225 degrees with the super smoke on. I'm using hickory pellets on this. I love hickory and prime rib. So we're gonna get that going, 225 degrees. We'll get this on just like this, right on the pan. We wanna catch all those delicious meat drippings and the butter and everything else as it melts. So that is the game plan. We're gonna let it go until it hits about 115 degrees. We're gonna take it off. We're gonna kick up the heat on that Traeger to about 400 degrees, and we're gonna get this in there and let it carry up and get that nice crust develop on it and everything else. It's gonna be beautiful, it's gonna be delicious. So I'm gonna go get the Traeger Ironwood 885 fired up. Once it's up to 225 degrees with the super smoke on, I will meet you out there and we will get this rib roast on. I can't wait to try this. It smells absolutely wonderful. All right, so the Traeger is coming up to temperature, and I don't know if you can see this, but this grate right here usually sits up here in these slots. I just dropped it down to rest on top of where this grate can raise up above, just to keep it off of the direct heat and just give it a little bit more wiggle room. It does sit very firmly on there. So now all I'm going to do is just get this prime rib right in there, and you can see by dropping it down like that, I have clearance for my probe. It's gonna get nice smoke on it. It's preheating right now, and I'm fine with it warming up with the grill. It'll bring the temp up slowly. I'm gonna get that closed, make sure the super smoke setting is on, which it is, and now we're just gonna let this thing go until it hits 115 degrees internal. I will set a stopwatch and let you know exactly how long that takes. All right, so it has been 3 hours and 45 minutes. I'm gonna stop the timer now. You can see 3 hours and 45 minutes, and I was a little off when I said about 3.5 hours. So we're gonna check out this prime rib and look at that. We have all the melted butter on there. A bunch of the herbs from the butter are stuck to it. We have nice rendered fat here that's been dripping, and it looks really, really good. So I'm gonna get this off and into the house where I'm gonna let it rest while I crank up the Traeger to 450 degrees, okay? So this is gonna go rest on my counter, uncovered just like this, until the Traeger reaches 450 degrees, at which point we'll get this on and get the crust built up on it, even though it looks pretty good right now. But we're gonna just blast it with some high heat, get that crust built up, and it's gonna be delicious. So I will see you when it's time to get this back on here once the Traeger has reached 450 degrees. All right, so it has been just a couple of minutes, and the Traeger is up to 400 and about 40 degrees. We're getting it on right now. Let this go dead center. You can see it is on the bottom rack now because I want to blast it with that heat. And we are sitting at about 123, 122-ish degrees. We are going to let this thing go until it hits 130 to 133, somewhere in there. Should be a nice medium rare. And I'm gonna spin this once it jumps up about half the amount I want it to. So I want it to go about 10 degrees. Once it bumps up 5 degrees, I'm gonna spin it for even cooking and let it finish out. So I'm not gonna bring you back for all that, but I'm just spinning it once it's halfway to where I want it to be for even cooking. I will show you the product when it is done, when we're about to get this off, but I'm losing daylight quick, so hopefully it finishes up quickly. We'll see you in just a bit. All right, so it has been a few minutes. I did rotate it. Camera's really struggling to pick this up in the light, so hopefully the quality is okay, but you can see we have a nice crust on there. We're still not at about that 130, 132 where I want it to be, more about 128, but I'm calling it done. Reason being is because I'm gonna bring this in and I'm gonna drape a piece of foil over it, not tightly. I wanna have room for the heat to escape, but that's gonna carry it over to that medium rare that I'm looking for in my mind. So I'm calling this donezo. I'm gonna get this in, let it rest for about 30 minutes. We'll slice into it. Hopefully I didn't screw it up. We'll do the taste test, call it a day. So, but I love the way this is looking. It looks beautiful. See you guys in just a little bit. We'll do the taste test. All right, so here is our buttery prime rib roast. Looking very, very good in my opinion. I am just gonna cut the twine on these like so, because nobody wants to bite into twine when they're eating delicious, beefy, buttery prime rib. The thing that I found interesting about this cook is the butter, yes, it melted off, but all these herbs and garlic stuck to this, and man, it just looks killer. It looks so, so good. All right, so I'm gonna get the twine off the bottom here. And again, there's all that delicious butter right there, if you can see that. And like I said, you could strain that out, use it to drizzle over the top of each slice of prime rib, or make a jus with it. It is completely up to you. I prefer the drizzle method, but we're not even gonna do that today because that is not the point of this cook. So here is our beautiful prime rib roast. Looking absolutely amazing. And now it is the moment of truth, which is the most important thing whenever you're cooking a prime rib, is did you nail the doneness? So I'm just gonna go straight down the middle and we'll find out. Ooh, slicing like absolute butter. And I would say that yes, we nailed the doneness. This carried up to 134.5 degrees during the rest. You can see we have wall to wall pink. That is what you are going to get when you start off at a lower temperature on your smoker and don't try and rush it. You're gonna have that even cook all throughout. Now, this may appear not as medium rare as it is in person, as it is on camera due to the lighting in here, but I promise you that is a perfectly cooked prime rib roast, in my opinion. Check that out. Looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, what more could you want? It is juicing. So juicy. Look at that, just pouring juices. I mean, come on. That is a beautiful prime rib roast if I've ever seen one. So let's jump out and let's do the taste test. All right, it is time to try this perfectly cooked prime rib. Now, it has been a long day. I've done numerous videos today, but I've been looking forward to trying this all day long. So I'm gonna get myself a nice little slice here. And the first thing I'm going for is the spinalis. This part right here is known as the spinalis. This is gonna be your most tender bite on the entire prime rib. Also, since this is also technically where you get ribeye steaks from, it's also gonna be your most tender bite out of a ribeye steak. My favorite bite right there. If you ever get ribeye caps, that's what it is right there. So, the more you know. Anyways, I digress. Let's try this. Absolutely perfect. And I don't throw around perfect often. This is a 10 out of 10. And I don't throw that around often either. The dry brine, game changer, absolute game changer. I'm getting the salt from the dry brine that penetrated down into the meat. Very, very good flavor. Getting the garlic coming from the granulated garlic, and of course the garlic in that buttery herb rub. So good. I love that the herbs and the butter stuck to the meat. I think that is an absolute power move if you're gonna be cooking this for Christmas. Tender, juicy, delicious. This is a perfect prime rib, and I will 100% guarantee you, if you make this for Christmas, everyone is going to love it. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, stay safe, and we will see you next time.